Your new consultant has now got some basic party plan and business skills to build on and develop, and this is going to happen over time, especially if you help them get into the habit of reflecting and learning from each experience that they have. The new consultant day covers all the information that's been missed, plus some goal setting in a bit more detail now that they've got some results and can start to see what might actually happen for them. They're not ready for all this information until they have done a few parties and understand the process and have dealt with all of the things that were front of mind when they very first started. I held this session once a month or every 6 weeks, depending on what worked at the time and how many new consultants there were to train. Other members of your team can attend as often as they like, and new people don't need to have started doing parties to attend, although it is better if they have. You'll cover a variety of topics in this. Some of them are exciting, and some of them are less exciting. So make sure you follow low energy topics with high energy ones. Have lots of water available to drink. I usually ordered in pizza or something similar for lunch, but you could just as easily ask everyone to bring a shared lunch. Good idea to have a social break in the middle of the day over some food. So you could start off the session with a recap and just looking to the future. Think about how things have been going so far. Talk about the vision, and this would be the vision of the company for your team and also the consultant's own vision. You could do some work on finding your why, which is something that I've spoken about at length in another course and is also available as a free webinar on my website. And you can also talk about goal setting. So that's a great way to start the day, by setting the scene and getting people's minds open to learning for the rest of this session. Now after that, you could start to cover some more practical and possibly fairly dry topics. These are more like the nuts and bolts of things, and the topics in this part could cover what your role is as a manager. I think it's good to be clear about that so that everybody knows where they stand and what your job is. Any code of conduct or expectations that there are for consultants. Some time management would be extremely helpful for them, because if you think back to when you first started the business, if you're like most people, you got very excited, but very quickly the business appeared to take over your life. And although that could have easily have been avoided, this can then lead to tiredness and burnout later down the track. So getting some time management in place straight away and trying to help people maintain balance in their lives will be very, very important for the future. Any company procedures that they need to know about, for example, if there's a product return, what the advertising policy is, those sorts of things, which you could highlight in the manual, and also anything that people need to be aware about if buying product for their own use. Now, you haven't really covered very much so far in all of the training about recruiting. And although you will have touched on it, you won't have gone into too much detail, because really people want to get through their parties and they want to get bookings from their parties. They haven't been in the headspace to be able to really focus on recruiting. So they will have had a little bit that they could say about this, but not a lot of detail. So this would be a good time to start talking about how to find VIPs at your parties, VIPs being vaguely interested people. And it's also a good time to talk about why it's important to book your parties in close together, and how booking them far apart and far out from the current date is a bad idea and bad for your business. And you'll have a list of other things that you feel would be important to cover, possibly some ideas on keeping your accounts. Anything that you can get into good habits from the start would be very helpful. You could have a motivational segment. You could talk about business planning for the short and long term, and you could also talk about weekly catch-up calls, and you've probably got some other things that you might add in there as well. There is a lot of information in this day, and I would encourage people to come more than once, and I'd also encourage senior consultants to take some parts of the day. It makes it more interesting for people when they get to listen to different people taking parts. It's also allowing them to develop leadership skills. So once again, you're taking advantage of the time to achieve more than one thing on your part. You're training consultants, plus you're also helping people take leadership roles as they start stepping closer to actual leadership in the company. By layering your training like this, you are setting in place something that's duplicatable and also something that is going to help lead to strong team growth. Now, right at the beginning of this week, when I was talking about the training that I used to do, everything that I've talked about in the videos through this training process, I covered in one day at the beginning, which is what led this consultant that I mentioned to burst into tears. I'm hoping you can see now that this is too much information for one day. I know of leaders that have even put all of this information over a 2-day weekend. It's really too much for a brand new consultant. So if currently you're doing massive chunks of training, I hope you're going to reconsider and think about the things that I've been talking about. You can do them the way that I've described, or you can modify them for yourself in a way that will fit in more with you. This may seem like more work for you, which maybe it is, more sessions, it takes a little bit more time. But if it ends up with a consultant who gets off to a really good start, it's been well worth your time, much more worth your time than spending less time with a lot more people and having them all not achieve successful start in the business. A question and answer session will be important so that you make sure you cover issues that are on their minds, and make sure as you do this session that you take note of any questions that you are asked, because they might be worth answering in some of your initial emails or information that the consultants receive when they're new. So that's a new consultant all trained up and given the best chance of success that's possible. Maybe you could present her with a certificate at training and a small gift that will be helpful in her business. This isn't only to make her feel good, but it's also to make your team feel good and get the feeling of success happening in your team. If you have guests at your meeting, it's also a great thing for guests to see as well. So once again, it's another layer of creating this successful business growth that we're aiming for. Personal contact in the early days is absolutely crucial. Your new consultant is precious. She's got dreams and goals and she wants to make changes in her life, so we need to give her every chance possible for this to happen. This business might not be the right thing for everyone, but as long as they give it a good go, at least they're never going to wonder about that. It's not a failure on your part if someone joins and then leaves, but it's really important that through the process you're reflecting and learning so that when you have someone join that is a good fit for the business, everything's going to work like clockwork for them. And people who leave are at least to be congratulated for giving it a try. Getting new people started well and feeling successful as quickly as possible is a massively important part of sustainable team growth. Don't leave it to chance.